I'd like to discuss today, if you will indulge me for a few minutes, about something that is not a specific political issue, a specific public policy issue, but a broader, more thematic conversation, that of social cohesion and civil society. This has been on my mind a lot lately, the past few days, the past couple weeks, because there's been a lot of troubling stuff happening in North America. You've had these mass shootings, these massacres, one of them by an anti-immigrant person posting that manifesto online, the other by this far left-wing pro-Antifa type character. So you've got that going on down south. Here in Canada, there's been some concerning scenes over one weekend. There were many shootings happening in bars and so forth in the Toronto area. And then we had the manhunt that ended in bodies being found. These two young men who told their parents they were going to look for work, and instead, so police believe, they ended up randomly, it seems, killing some individuals. And we know a little bit about the backgrounds in all of these people. Well, not the shootings in Toronto, but the manhunt here, the massacres in the US. And the sort of knee-jerk place to send this conversation is in a couple of directions. One is gun control, and everybody's invariably going in the gun control direction. Then you have the mental illness and the mental health direction. Although in this case, these don't seem to be individuals who exhibit some sort of serious mental health problems, as we've seen in some shootings. So they're not going in that conversation. They're focusing on the gun control conversation because, well, I think it's easy. I think people understand it. You can kind of hashtag it, more gun control and so forth. And look, I've read, I'm familiar with all the arguments before, all the arguments against. I don't think gun control is really the solution to what ails society right now, although we see politicians ranging from the far left to Donald Trump himself say, yes, we'd like to change, background checks or this and that restriction. So perhaps there are some things to be done on the gun control front. But I think the bigger question, what ails society today, and maybe what ails young men today. I never think it's fair to go after men in particular, young men, but we see a lot of these situations, whether it's these cases or even these guys going off and deciding to fight for ISIS, and predominantly they are young men. What's happening? Are there other things going on rather than just two lax gun laws? There was one Republican politician, she was a low-level state representative, she made a post on Facebook, and she said, let's talk about the real problems here. And she listed a whole bunch of what she saw as societal ills that were going on. Now, I don't want to, and then she had to apologize and bring down the post because there was big outcry across the country. CNN covered it and so forth. I don't want to litigate what she posted because some of the things she said I agree with, others I don't disagree with, I don't agree with, I don't think they are the cause of societal problems. But I think more broadly speaking, this sort of lack of social cohesion, this lack of civil society is a thing. We see the statistics, we see the data of basic things of, amount of time people are spending just being couch potatoes or just being on their online devices. And what is that doing to us? The lack of enrollment in civil society organizations, like putting kids into, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and older people joining groups like the Knights of Columbus and so forth, volunteerism rates, charitable donations and so forth. There's a lot behind that. I'm not saying people are becoming selfish. A lot of the charitable donation stuff is because taxes have become too high, or people are just giving their money, other ways that aren't tracked through charity. But we do see a decline in all of this. And well, forget that woman's Facebook post. I think the best kind of description of all of this is in a book that I bring up as much as I can. It's by the historian Neil Ferguson. It's called The Great Degeneration. Neil Ferguson usually writes very long books that take a while to read. This book is only like 150 pages or so. You can read it quite quickly. The Great Degeneration. It explains this broader erosion of civil society and why it's a problem. The lack of involvement in these voluntary associations, charitable giving, and people just not connecting as much as they used to do. And I think it's a really, really important thing. I garnered a little bit of controversy because I wrote a column a few months ago asking, do we need national service in Canada? And a lot of people took that to be calling for conscription. Now, I meant a different type of national service, a sort of civil national service. France is actually undergoing it right now. They're doing a pilot project for it where young people, teenagers, it's mandatory, although in the pilot project only 5,000 people are doing it, where for about 2 weeks You go into a sort of basic training, not a military basic training, but you're learning CPR and map reading skills and other sort of basic skills. And then for another 2 weeks, you're put with a sort of not-for-profit, a charitable organization and so forth, and you're making a contribution. And they're having the debate in France right now of do we actually want to do this? And I suggested Canada should do something like this. And the opinion was very divided. I mean, half people said yes, we absolutely need something like this. Young people are too irresponsible. They don't think about their community anymore. And then the other half of people said, this is fascism. Screw you. We don't need anything like that. That's too close to conscription. I think more and more now, yes, we do need to do something like that. We need to look at this idea, the great degeneration, as Neil Ferguson puts it, and say, how can we start to get things back on track? Do I have the answer? No, I don't. Bringing in various different programs, different ways to connect and strengthen our society, strengthen our cohesion and so forth. I don't, because it can't be hashtag. It's not hashtag gun control. It's not hashtag here's an easy answer. Pass this one piece of legislation. And it's probably not going to be legislation, because I think part of the problem, part of the worry this day and age, is I find a lot of young people don't realize that not every solution is a government solution. They don't realize that we as communities actually have the ability to solve a lot of our problems ourselves. It's very concerning, and it creates this problem. There's this saying that says big government makes small citizens. You hear a lot of people say, oh, there's an affordability issue with housing. What's the government going to do about it? Maybe it's not actually a government problem. Maybe it's not actually calling for a government solution. So stepping back there as well. And that's going to be incredibly challenging. It's not even just hashtag gun control. It's not hashtag anything government can do. It's something very different. It's something very broader. I don't have the quick fix single answer, but I think at least having that conversation, acknowledging that social cohesion, civil society, I think that's the direction. That's the direction we should be taking the conversation in the days, the weeks, the months, the years moving forward. What do you think?